Okay, so how should I do it? Should I do it in Russian though? Anyway, добрый вечер, good evening. I will say a few words in English and I'm just going to translate myself. Thank you very much for joining, everyone. And I'm just going to go through very basic technical details, and I'm going to say it in Russian. Спасибо огромное, что вы присоединились. Мы очень рады видеть вас на этой встрече, которая у нас проходит в рамках большого цикла к выставке Кристины Пашковой «Циклы, связей и действия». Выставка идет до 2 марта в Центре творческих индустрий «Фабрика». Пожалуйста, не пропустите, если вы еще не были. Будем очень рады, если вы придете и посмотрите проект. В рамках программы у нас было уже несколько встреч с философом Аллой Митрофановой, с исследовательницей Ёжи Столет, с Кристиной Пашковой, как художницей проекта. И сегодня у нас будет встреча с художницей, исследовательницей и пионером в e-textiles, в электронном текстиле Микой Сатоми. И перед тем, как мы начнем, я хотела сказать пару вводных. Во-первых, эта встреча записывается для того, чтобы позже мы могли вернуться к ней, пересмотреть ее и найти что-то еще раз новое для себя в том, про что будет говорить Мика. Поэтому, пожалуйста, когда вы заходите, соглашайтесь на запись. Это какая-то обязательная кнопка, которая возникает, когда вы заходите в Zoom. Второе. Для того, чтобы запись была хорошей, чистой и благозвучной, пожалуйста, отключите свои микрофоны на время лекции, на время того, как Мика будет говорить. Если вдруг вам хочется задать вопрос, то вы можете поднять руку или написать его в чате, а потом во время сессии с вопросами мы обязательно к ним вернемся или зададим их прямо в потоке, как Мика будет говорить. И второй важный момент. Мика будет говорить, третий точнее уже, Мика будет говорить на английском языке. Если вам некомфортно или вы, допустим, хотите послушать на русском, у нас сегодня есть переводчица, огромное ей за это спасибо, Анна. Анна будет переводить с английского на русский язык в канале, который здесь, в панели Zoom, значится как interpretation или перевод. Если вы посмотрите вниз, рядом с кнопочками «Поделиться экраном» и так далее, есть такая кнопка «Перевод». Вы нажимаете на нее и уходите в канал, который значится как «Русский». Там можно послушать речь Мики на русском языке. Что касается нашей программы, у нас осталось еще 2 встречи, помимо той, на которой мы сегодня присутствуем. 26 февраля будет встреча с ткачихой, с создательницей станка Тиситу, на котором Кристина сделала свою работу, Вибеки Вестбю. Вибеки будет рассказывать, в принципе, про работу с этим станком, как ей пришла идея взять жаккардовый станок и превратить его в полуцифровое автоматическое производство и таким образом изменить во многом среду и как дизайна, так и современного искусства. И последняя встреча у нас будет 1 марта с художницей Хоуп Ванг, которая живет и работает в Чикаго, и которая последний год или полтора уже занимается тем, что работает над пространством коворкинга Loom, в котором все художники из Чикаго или из региона могут ткать свои работы. Эти 2 встречи доступны для посещения по регистрации. Все ссылки я сейчас помещу в чатик на всякий случай, чтобы они у вас были. А сейчас, without further ado, I'm just going to introduce you, Mika. So once again, thank you so much for joining this conversation, for joining our program. It's a great pleasure to have a conversation with you and to listen to you today. And just so to be very brief, maybe before and not to take so much time from you, you are an artist and researcher, and also, as it's put down quite often, you are a pioneer in e-textiles. And throughout the platform and throughout your community that you created with KOBAKANT, you try to gather this knowledge about e-textile and teach people more about it and create a clear understanding of how it can be implemented, how it can be used, and how it can be worked on during these days. So please, the mic is yours. We are very eager to hear more about you and from you.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation to this program, and nice to meet you all. Meet you all. Yes, so I would just share my screen and start my presentation. So that's okay. I hope you see the full screen now. It's a title. Okay, perfect. So I'm presenting my work with the title Involving the Machines, which is actually a title of one of the project I did in KOBAKANT. And because when I was introduced to this program, Christina mentioned about this project, and it was maybe a nice kind of connecting point to the Christina's work. And then that's how I also chose the title of the presentation. And I also want to kind of try to talk about my works and our works as KOBAKANT from this kind of angle of involving the machines or involvement. So I am a part of an artist collective called KOBAKANT. And the KOBAKANT is myself and Hannah Perner-Wilson. And a lot of people ask me, so what is KOBAKANT? It's a made up word. Koba is a small factory, koba in Japanese. And KOBAKANT, this end is how German word of fabricant, a person who works in a factory. It's called a fabricant. And then this a person who works in a small factory put together into different language. And so with Hannah and our practice in KOBAKANT, we work with electronics textiles. I'm not sure if you're familiar with these terms and technique. And electronics textiles mostly uses the conductive fabrics and thread, these textile materials that is metallized or coated with carbon and other conductive materials that they do conduct electricity. And because they are textile materials, you can use also textile techniques with them. So instead of conventional electronics techniques like solderings and wiring and so on, you can use knittings and embroidering, weavings, and all these different textile techniques. And that really fascinated us. And since 2007 that we started to work with them, that we have been experimenting to see how you can use these techniques and materials to make electronics such as sensors and actuators and circuits with them. And then in 2009, we started to document them online. And that was kind of partly coming from our own need for ourselves, because we were making lots of experiments and researching on the materials. Of course, I mean, now it is a little bit easier, but back then it was not so easy to find someone who would sell or who would stock these materials, and especially someone who would sell small quantities to people like us. So to remember it for ourselves and to share the information also between us, we started to do this documentation online. And also we wanted to openly share it with the others. So it's not only for us, our secret, but I wanted to see what the other people would do with these informations. And now I talk a little bit about our way into this involving machines idea. And this is a project, actually title of a project we did in 2013 together with Hannah and Linda Robin. And this project took place in Swedish School of Textiles in Borås. And at the time I was working there as a researcher. And in this textile school, it is located in Borås, a city where used to be a lot of textile industry. And although a lot of these textile industries stopped producing, there are a lot of machines. And this school had a lot of these old industrial machines that are still in use, and you could experiment with them and produce with them. So we took this opportunity to see, instead of relying on handcraft techniques that we have been using, because that was what we could access actually, or ready-made industrial materials you could buy from these companies which produces, what if we involve machines and into making process and make our own design, our own industrial made or machine made electronics textiles? What kind of electronics textile can be developed with this collaboration? And yeah, again, it was very lucky because this is a school, so there were also people teaching how to use these industrial techniques and industrial machines. Otherwise, it's actually not so accessible. And instead of like handwriting these weaving patterns and so on, with these industrial machines, there is this specific softwares which would allow you to kind of program these constructions. And you can do much more than what you can do with the hand weaving machines, hand weaving looms. Of course, you can do all these constructions of weaving in the hand looms, but with the jacquard weaving machines, industrial jacquard weaving machines, you have much more freedom in some of the constructions. But of course, it's not just you and computer and the machines. You also need the technicians who would know what they are doing and how these machines work. And you always need to be kind of supported and translated to use these machines. And these are some of the results of this collaboration and this period of research we made. This is a conductive textile that has multiple conductive parts with a different conductivity. So yeah, we wanted to see this kind of like a circuit, like a textile circuit that comes out directly from the machine that can be used as a circuitry. This is a pressure sensor. This is made with a 3-layered weaving technique. And it has already the conductors and the pressure sensitive material all woven into one textile material. And this one, the left side is a pressure sensitive material, just to see how this kind of 3D weaving techniques can impact the pressure sensitive material making. And then the right side is a tilt sensor, which was also, these are design that we made earlier with separate parts, but then we want to see if we can kind of construct them together as one continuous textile. And working with these machines, machines can produce things and things very fast. So these textile materials I showed you now, we could weave it in 1 meter in 10 minutes, which would be impossible with like hand weaving machines. And we can design things for these machines to produce. But then it comes to the question, how can we get involved in the bigger picture of what we are producing in future? Who gets to decide, and what and where is our agency in these decisions? So that comes to this question of how do we involving, or how are we getting involved as humans into these processes? And this is probably what KOBAKANT has been always kind of exploring. And one of the big projects we did, this was in 2018, we did the project called KOBA. And this was a 1 year, we call it as a performance of that we pretended to be in a tailor shop, an e-textile tailor shop. And we actually opened a front shop in a small shopping area, like outskirt of the shopping area in Berlin. And we opened it as a shop, and this shop's rules were such that you could order things for yourself, but not for the others. It's not for making a product for the others. And tell us what you want, and you name the price, and we make it for you. And these are some of the things that people ordered, and things we made. And I go through some of the examples. So I have to move the picture here. So this is an order from Anya. And actually this one, we bend the rules a bit, because she wanted to get something for her boyfriend as a birthday present. And we said, it's personal enough, so we take it. And she wanted us to make an electromagnetic field listener. And this is made into a hoodie with an antenna on it. And we made also embroidered amplifier that would amplify the field. And what it is that you can wear this hoodie with a headphone, and then you can walk around the city, and then you can hear the electromagnetic field change in the city. Oops. The next example is a commission from Dominique. She is a performer, and she was working on a specific concept of performance, and she wanted to get a costume that would sense her micro movements of her new piece. And she wanted it to be made with very time-consuming technique. So we decided that it's a crochet. And she had also this inspiration of a slime mold, which is a kind of organisms that lives in the woods. So we kind of try to get this specific aesthetic out of crochet, and also with this textile electronics materials that we use. And this third one is from Tom. He unfortunately lost part of his finger in an accident, and he was then motivated to make his own prosthesis rather than getting one from the health insurance. So he was already working on the design of his self-made DIY prosthesis, but he wanted us to make a bend sensor for his finger. So when he moves his finger, his prosthesis also moves with them. And we helped to make this sensor, but also the connection to a microcontroller, so you can read the sensor input, and then that controls the finger, the motor movement of this prosthetic finger. And these are there's just pictures of other projects that we did, just to give you a kind of feeling of what different things that has been made in this project. And overall, we had 13 commissions made in this 12 months or in 1 year. But there were much more people came to us and talked with us. Like daily, we had visitors to our shop. And the interesting thing is, a lot of people liked the idea of what we are doing and found it interesting, and found the e-textiles and wearable technology interesting and wanted to order something. But then it comes to this point that, okay, I would like to order something, but I don't know what. And this was a very, very common thing you hear in this project. And we thought it was very interesting. You can get what you want, but the question is, how do I know what I want? And this is probably something that we have been, like, it became kind of a new topic for us. And then I want to just share with you this one quote from a book from Ursula Franklin. It's called The Real World of Technology. And there she describes the technology as such. Technology involves organization, procedure, symbols, new words, equations, and most of all, it involves mindset. And exactly this mindset is something that I question often, and I wouldn't have an answer, but it's really interesting to see this kind of relationship with the technology, and then user and developer of the technology to think about what is the mindset that we can kind of exercise. So now I go into a little bit another direction of the projects that I have been working on. And until now, it was a lot collaboration project with KOBAKANT, with Hannah. But now I talk a little bit about the project that I did as my solo project and with the other people. So in 2019, I had a luck to be a part of a START's residency program. And this program offers an artist to work with scientific institutions in a specific a topic. And I was given a chance to work with a collaboration with a Center for Smart Manufacturing at the University College Cork. This is a computer science department research group, and they have been looking into the use of artificial intelligence in smart manufacturing, but more in a broader sense of artificial intelligence and development of artificial intelligence. And in the beginning, I was thinking, the whole scheme was that artist has this great idea and ask the scientists or like technologists to realize your ideas. But I started off with interviewing the researchers and scientists there to really understand what is there as in a discussion or in the development of artificial intelligence. And instead of having, I completely kind of abandoned this idea of asking them to make these great wearables or this high-tech something, but rather I wanted to actually know how this artificial intelligence are really made inside. And this was something like I also had the fantasy before that, okay, if you open a computer, you wouldn't see a brain. So how is it exactly working? But I never really had chance or time to get into really looking into how it's really working. So within this project, I started to look into a lot of tutorials and documentation about how these artificial intelligences are made. And there are really nice tutorials which even explains you how you can program this artificial intelligence. So I started to follow this tutorial 101 to 102 to all this series to build my own artificial intelligence or artificial neural networks. And after that, kind of understanding the basics of how it works, I started to translate them into a textile circuitry. So this is one of the first textile prototype I made. This is a 3-cell neural network. And the cells, the neurons, are made out of microcontrollers, which is a small computer you can program. And all of them are doing the same thing. So you get an input, and depending on the input, it outputs something. And when we talk about this machine learning, the learning comes from how they adjust its weight for its input. So how the importance of the input. So the learning means that the importance of the input that it gets is shifted. And then when you have a bigger, many of them put it together, network together, then it's kind of, to us, it feels like it is learning something. So that's how actually artificial neural networks works. And here I wanted to show you a video of one of the first prototype I did. So this one, the input is my hand gestures, and it learns like rock, paper, scissors, and the light you see in the background is kind of indicating which of the gestures I'm doing. So I trained with my gestures, and this very simple textile network is recognizing them. Let's play this now. Yeah, as you can see, it's only 7 cells in the network, and it's really, really simple. And then it's also a little bit slow, but it does what it kind of it does this kind of recognition system out of as any neural networks do, or artificial neural networks do. So even when you translate in textiles, it does actually work. It does function. And this really fascinated me, that you can make your own artificial network. So I started to kind of make a different shapes, and I had this kind of wish of making a bigger one. So the second one I did was a shirt or like a sleeve. And here I could do my finger gestures, and then I could recognize what gestures I'm doing. And then also this one, I can also train it as I'm wearing. So I don't need a computer simulation anymore. And then the third one I did, okay, of course I wanted to go even bigger. And I made a version which is 60 cells. And I made it into a big kind of suit that I could wear. And this one, I did it actually at the time of Corona, or like the Corona thing started as I was finishing up. And I must say this project kind of hung in the middle because I didn't have an access to other people to show it or like not to access. So it kind of internally ended here as me wearing it. And then I was like, I was, how to say, fascinated myself to wear it, even though what it does is very, very simple. Like it probably, it recognizes 2 or 3 of my body gestures. That's it. But just kind of this amount of things and what's happening as a network just covering over me. And that is actually an artificial network, artificial neural network, just fascinated me. But I must admit that this one, I didn't really know how to then transfer as an artistic work to communicate with the others. So this is a little bit hanging project now. And I'm hoping that the next step is slowly coming, that it then becomes something to be shared with the others. But this project really opened up a lot of kind of door for me to work with the artificial neural network or artificial intelligence, because I had like a very low level of understanding. I cannot do high-tech ChatGPT or something, but I could understand how this thing actually works as a technology. And from there, I started to kind of communicate with the others and start looking into what other things than using commercial AI technologies that you can work in artistic works as with machine learning and artificial intelligence. And this is one of the projects I did afterwards. This was a big group project. And this was Juan and Diva, who is a choreographer and performance, and Alex and Lizzie, who is a live coder, and me as an e-textile person worked together. And within this project, or it was a big research project, and we had a topic and task to look into what AIs or like what ideas of AI could do within the artistic practice. And the performers and choreographers, they looked into the human movement and pattern making. So what kind of collective patterns and individual patterns can occur within the durational performance. And my task was to create a sensor suit for everyone, and how this collective movement informations of patterns could be kind of gathered within with the machine learning, some kind of like collective, if it can create a collective patterns. And then the live coders were using these collective patterns to create music, live coding music or like live music. So that kind of feeds back to this improvisational pattern making action that performers are performing. And this ended with 4 hours of durational piece, or durational performance, where we didn't know really like where it starts and where it ends, or how it will develop over time. And and of course, for us, it was really an also aesthetic exploration of how this also symbolic idea of AI could be aesthetically explored. And within this project also, I had my other kind of agenda for myself, which was to develop a textiles with this idea of artificial intelligence. And within the collaboration with Noel Saavedra, he's a weaver from the Weverei Berlin. I developed a series of images that was created with the AI, with the disco diffusion technique. And Noel have converted these images into textile patterns, and he wove with the industrial jacquard machines. And these are some of the outcome from this collaboration. And these textiles also are embedded with a copper thread. So they act as a sensor surfaces. They are touch sensitive. And we explored a little bit of this touch sensitive AI image produced textile could symbolically mean, and what this can be also part of this kind of performance or artistic experiences. Although I must say this was not fully explored because we had so much on our table. So this was maybe like put into to be continued place, and that's actually what I'm doing now. But it was really interesting to see how this images that is not that what I paint, but kind of created from like half and half chance, almost a chance made images. And I must say also these AI created images, they are not something, or at that time at least, they are not something that you can just get from computer and use, but it needed a lot of actually collage and layout and selections. So that was also the interesting thing. It was still creative to work with them. I didn't feel that it was like my creative agency is gone because the AI is doing this creative part, but it was more like creating the materials for me to get creative to assemble the images together, and then also kind of come up with an image that I didn't really anticipate in the beginning. So that was my kind of one direction I went, which was to work with intelligent systems or complex systems. And another direction that I am exploring right now, just starting this exploration, is to work with another kind of complex system, the modern human systems. And this is what I have been being busy for the last year now. This is a natural indigo dye bath with a skumo fermentation. And I don't know if people are familiar with this, but the blue jeans, for example, this blue often we call the word indigo. It's originally coming from the plant, so the color substance called indigo, which is originally taken from plants that contains this indigo or indican. And nowadays it's mostly made synthetically. And so our blue jeans are mostly colored with synthetic indigos. But there are actually techniques to get these colors from the plants that contains these substances and make color, so make a dye out of it. But you can't just boil the leaves and color it, but you have to ferment this the vat. And it is a collaboration with the bacteria. So you have to first get grow the plant that has the indigo, and then you have to compost these colors. So there are a few ways to extract the colors, but I'm particularly looking at this technique called skumo, which is to compost these leaves into brown, like soil-like materials. And then from these soil-like materials, you make a fermentation vat. So you let the bacteria in the soil to kind of go through these materials and then make this pigment that is in the leaf to the actual dyeable material. So that is a very complex modern human collaborations. And it's really, for me at the moment, I'm really fascinated by this. It has a very little control. Like you can control it, or like you can relate to it, but you have very little control. And every day is a bit of surprise. And yeah, I'm really curious to see where this is leading me to. So this is a project that I have to say to be continued, and I hope to let you know how it went next time I see you. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mika, for a fascinating presentation. Yes, I can only add and relate to this heart that Christina is producing right now, and Natalia as well. So please, if you have any questions or comments to Mika, don't hesitate to either raise your hand or signal in any other way, or write your question in the chat. This is also possible. In the
Can I
meantime,
start because I have a question?
Yes.
yes, of course.
Yeah, I will ask in English, and I don't know, should I myself translate or maybe Anya can translate? So yeah, since I'm now involved in laboratory connected with artificial intelligence, I'm now inside the discussion about it and how it will impact on art, on artists, and generally on the whole world. And I really like that you also touch these questions, even not now when if it's a trend, but earlier. But my question is, like even it's not a question, but did I understood right that you are still ongoing on this project? I mean, you're like processing this kind of idea of your own artificial network, artificial intelligence. Yeah, so I was also thinking about this in the relation that how do you think, is it possible for us to have our own artificial intelligence, I don't know, two generations ago, people have looms in their homes, very high-tech technology, just right in your bedroom or in your living room, because they had to produce textiles from themselves to wear it or to for house uses. But I think it's also interesting shift that someday, if we think futuristically or maybe even about present days, that we also kind of should be maybe ready to program our programs. I don't know how. Sorry, I may be speaking, but do you get my idea?
Yeah. I think your analogy with the loom is a really interesting and nice one. And as I played around a little bit, it is possible to have your own, like train your own model. Of course, I think maybe I worked on this 2019-20, and around that time, also like what you get in the research, or like what is like high end then, was also not so big network. So so that level of like the text, for example, chat GPT, or like this kind of text generative model that makes a lot of mistake, you could probably train such things at home too. But now I think a lot of these commercially available models, they are trained in like such a large amount of data with such a large amount of computational power that we can't do it at home anymore. But also like the looms that we could have at home, they're not going to weave 1 meter for 10 minutes. So I think, I mean, it really depends on like what we want to do with these models. And I'm saying models because like the machine learning, the most consuming part is the creating the models. No? And then after that, like to use it, actually, of course, we can use it in our computers. But to create your own model, and then I think now the problem is that the models are made in such a huge, like dominated companies. And this one model serves for everyone. So like kind of like we have this one model situation. But depending on what we want to do, maybe we don't even need to rely on this one big model, but maybe something homegrown, small things for something small you want to do. So yeah, I think it's
basically like DIY like artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So I really like how it's interconnected with your practice, how you just did the artificial intelligence by yourself, and just in a few years you just grow indigo plants. So it's very close things, but of course from the distance it could be seen very different areas, but through your practice I'm like, yeah, actually it's kind of the same thing. I don't know how, but they are similar. It's also about algorithms, it's about programming. It's also, I think it's very good thing how we can look at the technology of something natural that is not, some, I don't know, robots that want to kill us, but it's really a very natural thing that comes with us, with human beings.
Yeah. And also I was recently in conversation with theorists who are kind of thinking about AI technology, and particularly the explainability and transparency of the AI. And there I saw, like, I didn't think also it's this, my indigo enthusiasm is so connected to it. But then I noticed, like, when we talk about this kind of complex something, when I'm working with bacteria and indigo, like I wouldn't know, or even like sourdough, like I wouldn't know what would happen. But I kind of have an overall control. It doesn't do completely random, but I have to give in some of the unexpected. And then I wouldn't, but yeah, the way I rely on this technology is very different from how we see the computer technology or AI technology, and what kind of transparency or explanation I need from sourdough is very different from what we are talking about with AI. So, I mean, with this comparison, I started to kind of feel differently about these technologies, and some of the kind of symbolic projection we have for the AI is probably just not fitting. I wouldn't say wrong, but maybe we could reconsider.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? Okay, if
Друзья, вы можете на русском спросить. Если кто-то хочет на русском спросить, можно спросить на русском, и мы переведем.
I just want to jump in and ask another thing, because you just talked about it in your very last phrase. You said, and you kind of touched upon this question of expectations as well, because when you were talking about the tailor shop that you had, you said that people often didn't know how to formulate their question, their kind of inquiry, what they want to have. And I think it's quite interesting. And I wanted to ask you why, in your opinion, it happened, because it feels like they were confused, like, because there is a certain level of expectancy and expectations towards textiles, and another level towards technology. And I wonder if that's what you felt back then, that it kind of collapsed when they were trying to formulate their wishes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there was like few things. So one is, this kind of confused, or like, how do I even inquire my desires and wishes? And I don't know if you noticed, but with that, when I had this text, there was kind of this map kind of things in the behind. And this was a kind of like game-like thing we created in the shop wall, because we noticed this is a problem. So we made like keywords like and then we made it like a game. So are you courageous? Yes, no. And then it has another question. So you can kind of play the game to see at least like, which of the directions you are interested, or what are the topics you could be interested. So these are one things, like, how do we even, which questions do we ask to find out what we want? And not only like this personal wanting of of an object, but in general, we tend to be, actually, it's very difficult to find what I want. It's very easy when the alternatives are in front of you and then being asked, choose A or B or C. But then if you have to come up with from the scratch, it's really difficult. But actually, we have to train ourselves to come up from my own ideas and my own idea from scratch. And then the other thing that was interesting is a lot of people were hesitant to take this responsibility of ordering and wanting in that sense. So, and then, but I think it's a very healthy thing. And then that was probably something that the tailor shops had, but the current shopping malls don't have. Like, we are so easy to pick something, but if you had to order something, if you initiate this want, then you take your whole responsibility, so you can't so easily do it. And that was something that we noticed, and we discussed a lot with the customers about this, of the responsibility, and then related to that also the cost of the labor and the fee. So, and yeah, so this was some topic that we touched on in this project.
Thank you. Okay, questions, вопросы? Okay, then I will
If nothing,
jump in with another one.
yeah, okay.
Then connected to that, because you said that you started the KOBAKANT project in 2007. And
6-7, yeah.
6-7. So it's been quite many years that you've been working on this, and I'm sure you have encountered so many practitioners that touched upon this project, or they tried and experimented with textiles in this and that forms. They experimented with e-textiles as well. So you have this understanding of the progression, or like the understanding of how it has been changing throughout these years. What do you think is awaiting us? Do you see some tendencies that are right now kind of surfacing in the sphere of e-textiles, or in the sphere of textiles being seen in conjunction with something else, either AI or processes with natural agents, so to speak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting question. Yes, when we started the e-textiles, there were some people who are working with it, but not so commonly. And then in 2011, I made the first e-textile summer camp, which was like to gather people who are doing this thing in one place, because otherwise we often knew each other from websites or names, but we never met each other. And then we also have seen the pictures of some works, but we didn't know how big they are, or what it actually, how heavy it is, how it looks from the other side. So I kind of initiated this yearly meeting for people, not only in academia, because it's in academia, there are always conferences, but if you think about artists, designers, there's nothing of this kind of physical meetings. So we started to do this once a year physical meetings for a while. And then in the beginning, I think a lot of us were just curious and enthusiastic. And it was much more about, wow, it works, or like, this kind of fascination of the technique itself. But over the time, I think we became a little bit more like kind of separated, or like the direction of each of the practitioners became more clear. So some people went into the technological researches and development of technological development. Some people went into more commercializing these techniques in like daily products or product making. And then some of us went into more like using it as an artistic medium and so on. And then also there came a little bit of split direction or split points that has a standpoint you can take. And I'm also a part of this, or like for me, it's also very important, because from beginning, it was clear that using a textile and electronics, it is not very sustainable, or on its own, it's not sustainable. Like textile makes a lot of this waste, and then technology makes this horrible waste. And we are putting this together. So this can't be good as it is. But we wanted to kind of also vocalize this thing to see, like, what can we do in a bigger picture if we want to continue this practice. Unfortunately, that didn't really develop so much. And then I think some of us went into more, pushing this direction of how can we continue this thing sustainably, or if not, more like talking about sustainability and textiles and sustainability and technology. And then there is also other people who went into more of this kind of, let's develop this further. And then I think there somehow a little bit of this kind of separation happened within the practitioners.
Okay, thank you. So if no last but not least questions appeared or comments, just the very, very, very last question from me is what shall we expect? You're working on indigo coloring and dyeing the textiles. Do you have any upcoming projects where you would implement that, and when and how we can follow it?
Thank you. Actually, so this indigo thing became like from my personal experiment myself as a kind of almost like a hobby to involving other people. Like I'm just making everyone fascinated about this thing. And next year we are trying to grow a bigger amount of plants in a community garden, and then see if we can also make the buds together and color it together. So I think it's starting as a kind of new journey of creating its own community, or like, spreading to the others, enthusiasm to the others, and see if this kind of practice can go somewhere more than a personal hobby. And the project will be probably documented on my website. I don't do social media, so that's my kind of policy, to not to do social media. So I do the classic website thing, which probably more and more hard for people to find, but that's where you can find me. Otherwise, I'm really now a little bit open to a next turn. What's coming next for me?
And why do you deny social media?
I don't deny the social media itself. Actually, I do Mastodon, but I didn't. But I didn't like the idea that these are commercial companies, which has a commercial interest and intention. Not only like commercial companies are just selling you something, but there is this quite questionable data policies around and behind, which I didn't want to participate myself. But also, by participating, you also involve the others to participate, and that's not something I wanted to support.
Yeah, but I just always, in these doubts. On the other hand, I totally agree with you about these data policies that I don't want to mess up with. For instance, as far as I understand, if you download some picture on Instagram can use this picture in any forms and kinds. And of course, it's inside the terms and conditions that you just click without reading and so on. But on the other hand, for instance, when you have these very gentle networks, for instance, with the artist abroad, Instagram is the only way how I can keep up with them. Of course, I try to, sometimes write them a personal message and to like initiate some Zoom call and so on, but it's not easy and different schedules and so on. But it's also always for me this question, like to be represented at some point, but on the other hand, you're like, messing up with these shitty conditions.
Yeah.
But I'm sharing my pain.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I was hoping that something alternative would come up by now, but
Yeah,
didn't.
I'm thinking about some alternative because it's also a technology. This media is also a technology that, you know, for instance, for me, it gave me a lot of insights about how artists abroad are working, and I follow in them and so on. So for me, it's a big part of my, like, I don't know, visual knowledges and so on. But yeah, I would like it to be not that commercial and policy cruel as it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be really great if there is much more neutral social media platform. Yeah, happens in sometime soon. I mean, it has to happen sometime soon, I think.
Okay, so
Maybe
if
you
any, yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, so if either Mika or any of our listeners today would have an idea how we can change the system, please don't hesitate to write us an email. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay, but thank you so much, Mika. Thank you for the wonderful presentation and for all of these thoughts and insights that you shared with us. And we are very much looking forward to see how your journey with e-textiles and indigo dyeing is gonna develop. And we're gonna look for it on your website. So please, I'm gonna yes, I'm sure there is a website link on Fabrika's website, but we're going to be posting these videos on Vimeo and on YouTube. So I will make sure that all the links are there. And thank you to our translator today, Anya. Thank you so much for doing a great job, I'm sure. And thank you to all our listeners. It was a pleasure to see you and to have you here tonight. Thank you, and let's see each other soon.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.